But we're going to look at a comparison of seemingly the same radios. I mean, the front panels on both these Watkins Johnsons are pretty much identical. The upper one is an HF1000A version, which is designed for a hobbyist market, high-end hobbyist market, back in the late 90s through about 2009, the last one rolled off. And the bottom one is an 8711A, which is designed specifically for government and for military use, things like that. They're different radios, but more similar than different. And we'll go through this and kind of go through this a little bit. So let me just turn them on. This is the 8711A. And you see when it comes up, it'll have the name. This is Radio Marti coming on here. I'll turn it down a little bit so I can hear what we see what we're doing. And we're going to do the upper one, and you'll see this one has HF1000A. So we have the different versions of these. Like I say, made on the same assembly line. It's probably the same days. It's just they have different versions for different markets, and we've seen that a lot of that diversification for markets. But anyway, just give you a little rundown on both of these. These are both DSP receivers. Many people consider them to be the apex of Watkins Johnson, which is a very famous radio maker particularly for governmental use and military use. Anyway, they each have a lot of different bandwidths and a lot of different capabilities. I'm not going to go into all of that because there are data sheets out there, you can find that. Needless to say, there are a few differences in the two. The bottom of the 8711A has 66 bandwidths, and we're running 8 right now in AM mode, just for the demonstration purposes here. The HF1000A has 58, so you get an additional, and all of those bandwidths are above 8. 8 is the max, the largest, widest filter you can get on the HF1000. On the 8711, you can actually go to 16. Quite frankly, they're made for different purposes. One, the HF1000, of course, is a hobbyist machine, has some things designed to be run as a front panel operated radio, although you can remotely control it through a serial RS-232 and 488 ports in the back. But it was primarily designed for that. The encoder knob, which is one of the differences, the encoder knob there, they look the same on the outside because the knob is the same, but the little post that sits on, that turns on, are different in the two radios. The one in the HF1000 is plastic, and it actually is designed to not conduct electricity between the case and the user and that kind of thing, because you do get some, and that is a problem that some people think the lower one, the 8711A, has, because it has a metal post. It's designed not to be it's designed to be a remote access receiver primarily. You can do both, but it's designed, the design influences say that the bottom one is designed to be put like in a, I don't know, in a radio room in a ship and have the antennas 100 feet above them on a mast somewhere, whereas the top one, you might have a lot more varied, closer ranged antennas. What happens is, a lot of times, if you do have like a loop nearby, and you do this and you start tuning, sometimes you can introduce some hash just by the fact that you're interacting with the electrics in the radio. It doesn't shock or anything. It just basically grounds you a little bit and gives you a little bit of hash, a little bit of noise. I've got both of these running through the same antenna. It's a DX Engineering loop outside, about 45-50 feet away, and I've got them run through the Spritzberg multicoupler. So they're running the same signal in from the antenna, and I've got them both running out through this JRC NVA 319 speaker. And we'll switch back and forth to do some of that. One of the big differences in these is, at least the experts that have talked to me about this and who would know, as well as my own ears, is the HF1000 is designed primarily more for voice modes, and less for the digital modes, which have narrower bandwidths and, you know, have a lot more precision of the signals that you want to get. The lower one, of course, is actually made for more for digital. And I basically have the difference between the two is the brain of the two computers. The top one is a DX, is the HF1000, and this is the chip. That is the brain that actually originally came in the radio, the HF1000. The previous owner had put the chip in there, which basically made it the bottom radio. Obviously, the toner shaft was, the encoder shaft was not the same, but from a, you know, the guy gave you the 66 different bandwidths. It gave you the performance characteristics, all the, you know, shape filters for the filters and all that kind of stuff. The shapes and the skirts and all that were identical. But you put the original HF1000, the skirts are wider on the top one. It's much more listenable. Let's see if this will translate out into the thing. Let's see if we go to, that's this one. Okay. I don't know if you can hear that. And we get the same audio on all of them. I'm going to switch to the other one now. All the settings on both of these radios are the same. I've configured them so that AGC is the same, bandwidth is the same, mode is the same, frequency is the same. The 8711, the audio is a little crisper, a little bit more clipped, a little tighter. And if we go back to the 1000A, there's a little bit more oomph to the signal. I don't know if you can hear it on this iPhone speaker and microphone, but when you're, especially in weak DX mode, and things like that, where you have a lower signal and a lot more background noise, that makes a lot of difference in how much signal you can actually you can hear. That's what it's designed for. So those are some of the major differences. There are a bunch of different options. One thing that I believe I have seen one way or the other, mine came with an internal speaker. The HF1000 comes with an internal speaker mounted inside the case, and the signal goes up, so you can operate either the speaker through the phones, or you can, let's see, sounds pretty good. It's actually a very good speaker. The bottom one here does not come with that. That's an option, but most of them don't, since they were designed for mounting in racks. So you can turn it all the way up, you get nothing because there's no wires connected to anything in there. Now, that being said, the plug for the same motherboard on both of them. So if you get a speaker and you plug it in, and I actually happen to have purchased the $30 speaker. That's the model number that comes with it, because I checked on the inside, the 1000. That is the exact same speaker. And then one of these days I'll put that in there, and we'll do it'll sound just like the top one from that, with the exception of the filter like limitations we said before, simply because that's the use. The uses are different. The markets they were marketing to were different. Other differences on the HF1000 is a much more finished product on the outside. If you look, I'll show you kind of the side view. If you see the top, what the HF1000 it's kind of a gray case. It's kind of powder coated, charcoal gray. And the bottom one is just the HF1000, which is the military version. It basically is just bare aluminum metal. It's the same case and all that. It just doesn't have the finish points that the HF1000 does, because of the market. There are a lot of options for the 8711A. Crypto boards, decoders, that kind of thing, which can be fitted in there. But to be fair, both of these machines have the same boards that would plug into those options. So I think either one of them would work. So that, the firmware is different, and that controls your filter selection, the shapes of the filters, and the automatic gain control, the AGC characteristics. Other than that, they're pretty much the same. They're both high stability. They've got like 1 part per million or less, greater than one or less than that. So I just basically wanted you to introduce you to the differences in the two. You know, one thing to keep in mind if you're looking at buying one of these, make sure it's a more modern one. The version of the operating of the firmware, it can indicate which version you have. Originally, there was an HF1000, not the A version, but a 1000, and there was an original H8711 without the A. Those were not compatible. You couldn't swap those back and forth. They were different machines made for specific government contracts, and they are not interchangeable like the A versions on both of these were. This was kind of late. They kind of ironed out a lot of the bugs and the kinks, and they just kind of basically streamlined production. So Watkins Johnson did a great job on both these radios. And if you have one and have some experience on that, please comment in the video. Anyway, it's been a pleasure once again. Let me know if there's any other kind of videos you would like for me to make, and if you thought this was useful. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you next time.